Thank you. It's lovely to be back here with all of you and with people from so many different places. Welcome, welcome, and yes, good to be with you. Um, so we'll begin with a guided meditation, and I invite you to sit very comfortably or also to lie down. So just take a moment to create the most easeful posture. Standing also is an option. Um, and I just want to begin by also inviting you to incorporate movement into this meditation whenever and, if ever that is helpful for you. I've been teaching in two situations in the last 2 days where people shared after a meditation how hard it was for them to sit still. And I was thinking about how I want to offer practices where people feel that they can move mindfully as well as be still. So I'm going to just teach you a little practice I just learned yesterday. Are you not hearing me? I'm seeing at least one person can't hear. Are others hearing okay? Okay. Okay, good. Okay, so take your hands like this. We're going to practice flower breathing. So this is something that is a wonderful practice to share with children of all ages. So we'll breathe in, opening the palms, the fingers, and breathe out. Flower closes again. We'll do that a few times. In, out, and in, and out. A couple more times. Good. So another slightly larger way to do flower breathing is to put your hands on your shoulders. This is one of the 10 mindful movements, at least the arm part of that Thich Nhat Hanh teaches. So again, inhaling, we extend our arms out, and you can arch your back a little, look up if that feels good. Exhaling, bring your hands back to your shoulders. And again, inhaling, stretching, reaching out, opening yourself like a flower. Exhaling. A few more times. And exhaling, let your arms rest. So I want to offer those two practices as just ways that you can join in this meditation at any moment. What I'm leading, if you're not comfortable with a still body, you can add movement and breath. And there may be other combinations of breath and movement that feel good to you, and I encourage you to use whatever works for you. Don't feel that you have to be still if your body is really not at ease being still. You can keep being mindful, keep meditating as you add movement. So, once again, feeling into this posture that feels right and good to you. Maybe feeling your body a little bit more alive than you did before we just did the movements. So you can notice what the effects of those movements were on your body, on your mind. So being aware of your whole body, sitting here or in whatever position you're in. Let the weight of your body give itself up to whatever is supporting you. You are warmly welcomed and invited to rest, to come home to yourself in this moment, to release the running, the doing that so often is a part of our daily lives. Now you have time just for you to take good care of yourself. So letting your body just be, not having to do anything in this moment. So really bringing yourself fully into this space and into this moment. If there are any bits of yourself somewhere else, past or future, some other place, inviting them, all of them, to come back, to occupy the seat fully. And see yourself putting roots down into the earth, just anchoring yourself into the support of this planet Earth. A sense of groundedness, not being pushed around. You're not going to go anywhere. You're just being rooted here where you are, knowing that you belong right where you are. So as you root down with your lower body, with your upper body, from your waist up, you can reach up towards the sky like a tree, extending through the crown of your head. Feel the aliveness, the vitality of this moment. Just really sense into the fact that you do have a body, that you are a body. We don't just exist from our neck up. Really feel the presence of your body, the space, the volume that you take up, and the weight of your body. And an interesting question to drop in is, how do you know that you have a body? What are the signs of life that your body is emitting right now? Notice what's happening in your body. How it's changing. One sensation is prominent, and then another sensation becomes more obvious. Allowing holding in your body or tension to soften and release as you keep opening to what is alive in this moment. Letting the face soften and the chest and belly be soft, open. Every time you notice that your mind is wandering into thoughts, noting that, noting what has caught your attention, and bringing your awareness kindly, gently back to awareness of your body. And if you find it helpful to feel your breath, feel the in-breath and feel the out-breath, just letting it come and go naturally, and feel free to follow your breath. If that is not a helpful practice for you, feel free to stay with the sensations in the body. And considering now as you connect with your body, with your breath, with the space around you, what are the elements that have come together to allow your body to be? Your body has arisen due to many causes and conditions. So staying connected to the feeling of having a body as you also open to an investigation of what are the many conditions that have allowed this body to manifest. There are your parents, your mother and father, and any other adults that were part of raising you and caring for you. They are important conditions that have allowed your body to manifest. To have allowed you in all of your many faceted complexity to manifest. Your mind, your feelings, your perceptions, your consciousness. So there are the people who raised you. What are other conditions that have allowed you to manifest as you are right now in this body, breathing this breath? There is air. That is an important condition that has kept you alive, kept your mother alive while you were in your mother's womb, and it has kept you alive ever since. There is water, the waters that surrounded us as a growing fetus, and all the water we have needed to live since we were born until now. Our body being 70% water, this is a very important condition for our body to manifest right now. And of course, earth. Earth is a condition. This planet that we live on, that our ancestors have lived on and passed on to us. This is an important condition. And the soil that has allowed all of our food to arise. All of the food we've eaten throughout our whole life is a condition for us to manifest right now. And there is the sun, light, heat, without which our body could also not manifest, not be here. Connecting to this condition that is allowing our bodies to be alive right now. Our planet has a star to orbit around. There is a center force, a center of gravity. Our planet has a home in a larger solar system with neighboring planets, keeping us on track, keeping us in our lane. All these other planets are also conditions for our body to manifest, because they're a condition for Earth to be here. What are other conditions that are making it possible for us to be here right now, to exist? Time, space. Without these, we also could not be here, manifesting as we are right now. And how about all the other humans who make our life possible? Those who have taught us, who have been our teachers, those who have cultivated and harvested and processed and transported food, cooked our food. Our friends, our family members, those innumerable beings who have aided us in our survival, those who have built the roads that we use, who have built the hospitals, the schools, the governments, the infrastructure of our country, those who have made our livelihood a possibility. And not to mention human beings, but what about all the animals who have made our life possible? And of course, all of the plants, the trees that give us oxygen to breathe and take up the carbon dioxide that we emit. All the many plants, all the water plants that also help to stabilize our atmosphere, the algae, the plankton in the sea. Our being here, our manifestation right in this moment depends on all of these other conditions, all of these other beings, all of the elements. The whole universe is a condition, is allowing us to be here. If any one of these conditions were absent, our body could not manifest. Our being could not be here. So opening ourselves to see ourselves as conditioned, a conditioned thing made up of so many elements, just like all other things are, coming to be because of innumerable causes and conditions. Feeling into the body from the inside of the body, from the outside of the body, feeling the in-breath and the out-breath, Feeling the sensations in your fingers, in your toes, in your feet, your hands. As you are aware of the sensations of your body, include in that awareness the conditioned nature of your body, that your body, your whole being is earth, is sun, is water, is air, time and space, and all other beings. Right in this moment, right here. The whole cosmos is manifesting through you, through each of us, in every moment. As the poet Wordsworth says, I am vast, I contain multitudes. I'll offer you a sound of the bell. So bringing your awareness back into the virtual room that we're all sharing. And I just want to check, are we okay with the sound before I go on? Okay, so is this better? I'm going to speak a little louder. How is that? Great. Okay, just let me know if it's not loud enough. So the topic of the session today is this is because that is. This is because that is. This is not because that is not. This comes to be because that comes to be. This ceases to be because that ceases to be. It's the Buddha. So when conditions are sufficient, things manifest. And if there are not enough conditions, things cannot manifest. So we are just one condition in allowing things to happen, in helping things to manifest. It's never one thing that makes something else come into being. There's no one cause. There's always many causes. So we can't really say that we create a work of art, or that we cook a meal, or that we plan an event, or that we alone write a book. We're just one of the conditions that helps these things to come about. So even a mother is not the only condition that gives birth to a child, right? We know there's the father that's needed, there's all the food the mother eats, there's space and time and all the elements and all the ancestors that allow the mother and the father to manifest. So the mother, though she's an important condition, she's just one of many conditions. This is the case with all phenomena that arise. There are many causes and conditions, and they can only manifest when there are enough causes and conditions for them to come about. So how do we practice with this? We want to make effort to manifest the things that we want to bring into the world, and yet we are not the sole actor making these things possible. But it's not that we have no importance. Even though we're not the only one, we are still one important one. So how do we deal with that in trying to make things come to be in our lives or disappear in our lives, right? So we have to do our best. We have to train our minds, practice, water the seeds that we want to water, but we also have to let go. We can't control everything. We can't make other conditions happen the way we want them to. So we don't take it personally if things don't happen the way we want them to. If we've given our best, if we tried to do what we could do, we have to let go and accept that conditions weren't sufficient, or maybe not yet. So Thai, I and other students of Thich Nhat Hanh refer to him as Thai, which means teacher in Vietnamese. He shared that in the beginning, when he was beginning to tour and do teaching tours in Europe and the US, he used to worry and really want these tours to go well, that people would receive the teachings and be inspired and really apply the practice. But he realized he could only do his part. He could prepare, he could do his best, but there were a lot of factors that weren't in his control, like weather, like the people organizing the event and how skilled they were at doing it, like the people coming to the things he would do. So there were many things he realized, well, I just have to do my part, and then whether it is a success or a failure, I only can do my part. And so he said once he realized that it was many conditions that would determine how well a tour would go, then he didn't worry anymore. He could relax. That doesn't mean that he would give up, right? Just because we don't have control over a situation doesn't mean we are powerless. It just means that we have a limited influence. And so we do our best with the influence we have, and then we accept that other things are not up to us. And so there's a consideration of time as well, that, so many artists, writers, poets, were not discovered until after they passed away. Van Gogh, as a painter, was not really famous in his lifetime. But that wasn't his reason for painting, to be famous. What if he would have stopped painting because he wasn't famous yet? No, so we just give. We do what we can do, and then sometimes the fruition comes much later, maybe even after we are no longer manifesting in the bodies that we have now. So this practice of seeing the conditioned nature of things, and the way things sometimes just take time. Time is a condition for everything as well. This can help us in our big life questions. There might be times when we're trying to make a decision or we have to make a choice. And often when it's something quite important, quite big, it doesn't help to try to resolve it at the level of our mind, our thinking mind. We need to entrust those bigger questions to our store consciousness, to our deep unconscious mind that's actually much more powerful than our mind consciousness. Our mind consciousness is our waking mind that gets activated when we wake up and is active until we fall asleep. It's also active when we dream. But our store consciousness is actually many times more powerful and capable than our waking mind. It's the part of our consciousness that holds all of our memories, all of our ancestral wisdom as well. And that part is active even when we're asleep and not dreaming. So that's where we want to entrust a big question, not to the thinking mind. The thinking mind just gets all wrapped up in things and does the pros and cons and still can't decide. But the store consciousness, we want to think of planting that seed in the soil of the mind. So the store consciousness is like the soil. And so we have to trust that when we put the seed in the soil, it will sprout at some point. Sometimes we get impatient and we want to dig up the soil and look and see, are you growing? How are you doing? Right? Where's the answer? But it doesn't work. If we keep disturbing a seed, it won't sprout. So we entrust the question into the soil of our mind. We let the soil stay there. What we can do to help nourish the seed, nourish what will become insight when it sprouts, is water it with our daily practice, with our daily mindfulness. That's what we can do with the mind. We can bring the mind into the present moment to be aware of what's happening in every activity. And that's the water, that's the sunshine, that's the warmth that the seed needs under the soil to eventually sprout and give us the answer that we're looking for. So it's helpful when we have a difficulty, an issue, something we're trying to resolve, to also be able to be okay with not knowing and just hold with what we are able to know, which is we can know what we're doing from one moment to the next, and trust that that kind of knowing, of moment-to-moment mindfulness, will be nurturing a deeper knowing that will allow our answer to come to us when it's ready. So we do our part in trusting the seed of our question to the store consciousness and doing our daily practice. And in this case, we are one condition, but store consciousness is another condition. Time and space and our practice, they are other conditions. So just because, this is because that is, or this is not because that is not, it doesn't mean we're powerless. We can't do anything. It's just a very important, wise teaching that helps us to know what to do with the power that we do have, so that we're not using our power to push up against reality, which is we can't control it. But we can still do something. We can still influence. We can be the one condition that we are in the whole scheme of things. So there are times when we are able to do things that are quite difficult. And that's also because of conditions. That's also, this is because that is. So there are times we can't do something, and that's because of conditions, but there are times when we're able to do something, and it's because of conditions. So just like we don't need to feel badly if we fail, like Tai, he wasn't worried anymore about succeeding or failing in these tours. So we don't need to feel badly if something doesn't work out, if we know that we did our best. And even if we didn't do our best, we can forgive ourselves and know that that was because of conditions as well, not just something that we decided ourselves alone. But we don't need to feel badly when we fail. We also don't need to feel proud when we succeed at something special or difficult, because also we are just one condition. So I'll tell you a story about this. I was going to lead a retreat, and 60 people had signed up. It was in Denver a number of years ago, and a few days before the retreat, I was very ill. I had a big, very bad cough and a flu, and at the same time my mom was really sick, and I had to help her get to the hospital and get in the hospital. I had to wait from afternoon till early in the morning with her till she got seen and admitted. Meanwhile, I was having this big cough and flu and fever myself. And like the next day or 2 days later, I was supposed to lead this weekend retreat for 60 people. And I really was thinking, how can I possibly do this? I'm so ill. Well, I got my mom cared for, and I told everyone who was organizing the retreat that I was really ill. I started to, do all my remedies for flu. We decided it was still going to work, and that I had my own apartment off to myself. I brought all my food that I needed to eat, that I like to cook for myself when I'm feeling bad. Stews and veggies and good stuff. So the first night of orientation, I gave the orientation talk on Skype. I was in my room. I didn't want anyone to be, I was still contagious at that point, so I didn't want to infect anybody else. Everyone else was in the Dharma hall looking at a video of me doing the talk. And the next day, I came out and felt better. I gave the talk with a surgical mask over my mouth and nose so that I wouldn't spread germs. It's my first time giving a talk in a mask. And everyone else who was organizing, there were many experienced practitioners. They led the morning meditation. They ran the afternoon, some of the afternoon sessions, the evening meditation, so I could rest. By the next day, I wasn't contagious anymore, so I was able, and I was feeling better. I was able to give the talk and do some of the afternoon program. I was amazed. The retreat was a success. People were very happy, and I was feeling much better by the end of it. So what I thought just wasn't possible became a possibility because of many conditions. And all the Sangha was a huge condition. My own immune system that was improving over the course of the retreat was a condition. And I've often felt that the Sangha has a healing influence on people's health. I know it does for me. At times when I'm not feeling well, when I can go be with a body of practitioners who are practicing, it helps my own health. But I thought, when the retreat turned out like that, it made me think of a teaching I'd heard Joseph Goldstein give on a retreat at IMS. He said that his teacher, Munindraji, had told him this, that the Dharma protects those who protect the Dharma. And it really hit me when this retreat happened so well that, oh, I was really being protected by the Dharma. I was trying to protect the Dharma by holding to this uh, commitment to offer the retreat. And then the Dharma was protecting me in return. And so in this situation, the Dharma was a condition that allowed for the retreat to manifest. It wasn't me. It wasn't one person or even a few people. It was many, many things. And similarly, when this was right after 9/11, Ty was in New York City speaking to many journalists about how the United States should respond to the terrorism of 9/11. And he was sitting for hours. There was one journalist after the next coming to interview him. And my father happened to be in the room listening. And he asked Ty, he said, how do you do this? How do you stay with so much energy to answer everyone's questions? And Ty looked away. And then after a while he said, it's not me, it's the ancestors who are giving these interviews. So that's like the Dharma. The ancestors can sometimes come in and help us when we may not have the strength, may not have the direction. They come, and if we access them, they are there to help us. That's part of what makes the store consciousness so powerful, is that that's where we have access to all of our ancestral wisdom and strength. So this awareness that this is because that is can also really help us to relax and let go into the unknown. So whatever we do for our livelihood, whether we create art or run a business or teach or write, or if we're wanting to make a baby or tend a garden, anything that we're wanting to bring into the world, if we can let go and be in touch with the fact that we are channels, we're in the process of midwifing something greater than us, much greater than our ego idea of what needs to come into the world. If we can see that, and be in that place of humility, we can be part of manifesting things that otherwise wouldn't be possible. And often things turn out much better than we would plan them if we let go. If we try to micromanage and make everything just in this perfect way, we can get in the way. But if we just relax, and I'm just one condition, let me do my part, let me be here to facilitate this coming into being, but with this open hand rather than a closed fist needing it to be like this, like that, then something really beautiful can come about that's much bigger than what we could have planned. So there's a violinist named Stephen Nachmanovich. He wrote the book Free Play. He's an improvisational violinist. He said, as an improvising musician, I am in the surrender business, not in the music business. So we have to relax and surrender. And I think part of relaxing is being willing to fail, being courageous enough to make mistakes, to know that we can only do our part. It might work, it might not work. And it's okay to fail. We can always try again and learn and maybe do much, much greater things because of those learnings from the so-called failures. So this is Nisargadatta Maharaj on coming back to a place of silence inside of ourselves, of not needing to strive. This is about this surrender and letting go. He says, be quiet, free from the obsession with what next. In the silence, something may be heard which is ordinarily too fine and subtle for perception. So this obsession with what next, this uneasiness when there's nothing to do, when we don't know what the outcome will be, it's really important to get comfortable being there, this not knowing space. Standing in front of people and not knowing what to say. Being okay with not knowing. Can we just open to that moment, what the possibilities are when we don't have a plan? When everything isn't, perfectly arranged. Something very fine and subtle that's not usually available to us may be available in that moment of complete surrender to the not knowing. So part of this surrender is also accepting that we are enough as we are. There's a beautiful calligraphy that Tai has written that says, you already are what you want to become. And it's a really important practice to reflect on, to bring into our lives. And it's something we can also transmit to others, not trying to fix or change. We don't have to be anybody, but we can come back and rest in what we already have, what we already are. So we want to uncover and wake up to what's already in us rather than try to go out and find something that's outside of us that we need to put inside of us. So we can trust in this goodness, this greatness, this Buddha nature that's in us and in everything. It's already here. That's the gift of the surrendering, this trusting. So there's a beautiful song that I'm going to put in the chat. It's called Planting Seeds, and I invite you to listen to it after our class is over. But it's by a wonderful artist named Nemo, and I'm going to put the link in. And it talks about this, that, I just put it in the chat for you, but listen to it. It talks about how we can try our best. We plant the seeds, but whatever will grow, will grow. What's not going to grow is not going to grow. So we just plant seeds. That's all we can do. It's a sweet song. So thank you for listening. It's the bit that I wanted to share today, and I'll just say another bit about Donna, echoing what Caroline already said. So Worldwide Insight offers an invaluable opportunity for people to connect live to Dharma teachings from anywhere in the world. If everyone gives a small donation, it would really help to support me as a full-time Dharma teacher and all the other teachers who are teaching each week, and the considerable costs of Worldwide Insight, which can only continue with your support. So please offer Dana using the button below the video. And now we have, and so yes, Caroline added a note that half of the donations will go to me for teaching this week, and half will go to Worldwide Insight. So, we are happy to take your questions. The first one I see here is, how do you address self-defeating behavior, the constant awareness that one could do better? Thank you for that question, Sharon. I think self-compassion and self-love, caring for ourselves in what might be a time of difficulty. If we're doing things in a way that we know we could do better, probably there's some suffering, there's some pain, or some place that we're stuck. And that's not completely of our own making. We are responsible for ourselves, but as I said, so many conditions have come together to make up who we are in this moment. So turning with compassion to that part of ourselves that is self-sabotaging maybe, or not acting in our own best interests. So just kind of holding that part of ourselves with curiosity, with tenderness. What is this? Where does this come from? How can I befriend this part of me and accept it? Because it's only in accepting it that we can really see to the bottom of it and have any real transformation. So it has a role to play. It has some kind of an important place in our lives. Otherwise, it wouldn't be manifesting. So it holds some kind of a gift. And if we can see that underneath the exterior of something quite sticky is some kind of a gift. So we want to get to know it, become friends with it, so we can see what is the gift that it's bringing. Maybe it's an ancestral pattern that our ancestors had as well, and maybe we are the generation where that pattern will stop. So maybe it's arising in us so that we can heal not just for us, but for many generations before. And so thank you for the question, Sharon. I hope it's helpful. Thank you for the comment on the chat, Lisa. The second question from Andrew: when meditating, is a thought that you want to follow a form of craving, i.e. one of the hindrances, or something else? I can't recall which teacher said this. Maybe Gil Fronsdal. I think he said, in meditation, when we're doing formal sitting practice, nothing is worth thinking about, no matter what it is. It's a pretty bold statement. So it's always possible to make a note of a thought that's really interesting and come back to it later, after meditation. I have a phrase that I use sometimes: I'll thank you later. So some thoughts really are worth pursuing. Some thoughts are very full of awakening and positive mental states that can really be helpful. But I guess the question is does it need to be thought about in meditation? And the motivation for wanting to think maybe more skillful thoughts in meditation might be a kind of diligence, a kind of eagerness to explore the Dharma. But still, the question is that the right time? Is that the needed place to have that, to be engaging with that thought. Some people have a piece of paper with them while they sit, and they might just jot down just a word or two and then put it down, so they remember after the meditation what were the important things arising that they really want to make sure to address. So if it's an interesting question, I would say for you to check out for yourself, like, what is the motivation behind wanting to think? Is it wanting to get distracted? Is it wanting to resolve something, to find an answer? So I would say check it out for yourself in your own meditation. What do you think the motivation is? Is it craving? Is it something else? And it's a great area to explore. So thank you for the question. The third question, this is from Sabine. How to deal with huge disappointments in life, like not being able to have a child when having children was a central plan or wish for your life. Thank you for the question, Sabine. Well, it's an important example of how we are just one condition, and many other conditions are needed for something like a child to manifest. And I think accepting that what has come to be because of all of these other causes and conditions, is really the way to make peace with the situation, and perhaps to pay attention to what we have been able to manifest in our lives that we wished to manifest. Not only seeing what we wanted that we didn't get, but what we do have already that's really good. And perhaps also opening up wider the idea of what it means to have a child. If it's possible to take caring for children that are in your community on as a real aspiration. So to support children in whatever ways are relevant or passionate, ways that you find you'd really like to do that. It might be supporting children who are hungry in third world countries, developing countries, or volunteering, being a force of real love in the lives of children where you live. So there's so many children who need love. And maybe one way to channel the feelings of disappointment are to use that love that you wanted to offer to your own child to really care for children who need care. And certainly to have great compassion and kindness and tenderness for yourself for the disappointment. So to really honor the disappointment, to grieve, to forgive life for being as it is, and to let go. To then really put your attention to what is possible for you. And the children that are available for you to care for and love. So I wish you well in sharing the love that you have with children. So, fourth question. I find that sometimes the process of meditating clears the mind of clutter and new ideas pop up. So I like the idea of making a note. Oh, thank you, Charlie. I'm glad that that's helpful for you. Yes, because it's true, when we practice, we create more space. So some of the more helpful things in us have space. And so we don't want to lose track of that, but noting them allows us to pick them up later. So feel free to send in any questions or thoughts, comments. We still have a little more than 15 minutes left if you have more questions. Lovely to hear from you all in the chat area. I'm glad that to hear that the talk has been helpful. There's another question that's come in. Could you talk a little more about store consciousness? This is from Annie. Annie, would you share a little bit more about what you'd like to hear about store consciousness? Annie says, I just found it very interesting. So one of the words that's used to describe store consciousness is alaya, the alaya consciousness. That's the storehouse. So in store consciousness are contained all the seeds, and in Buddhist psychology, there are said to be 51 kinds of seeds in our store consciousness. So in the form of a seed, they're asleep. So we have this, everyone has all 51 types of seeds. Some are wholesome, some are unwholesome. Some are indeterminate, which means it depends on the situation, whether they're wholesome or unwholesome. So wholesome seeds are the seed of mindfulness, the seed of loving kindness, the seed of forgiveness, generosity, humor, joy. And there's unwholesome seeds like discrimination, violence, hatred, distrust. And then there's the indeterminate, which might be like sleepiness. It can be a positive, a wholesome thing, can be unwholesome if it's a means of escaping from something. So we all have all 51 kinds of seeds, and when they're in the store consciousness, in the lower level of the mind, they are asleep. But when something comes into our mind consciousness and comes through the mind consciousness down into store and touches the seed, then it wakes up the seed and it sprouts up and it becomes what's called a mental formation, so an actual experience. So like before we were running around, our seed of mindfulness was asleep, and then we did our meditation practice or we listened to a Dharma talk, and our mindfulness seed woke up and it emerged as the mental formation of mindfulness. And it has an effect on our mind, on our body, because mindfulness is operating as an energy field throughout our whole being. And any moment of mindfulness that we have at the level of our mind consciousness, at that same level, for that same amount of time, that's how our seed of mindfulness is getting that much food. So 20 minutes of mindfulness is 20 minutes of food for our seed of mindfulness. So every time we practice mindfulness, our seed of mindfulness gets bigger. So the next time we want to practice mindfulness, that seed will come up faster, it'll be stronger, and it will last longer. So it's so important to take care of the seeds in our stored consciousness, to be aware of which seeds we're watering and which seeds we don't want to water. Because if we water our seed of anger or depression or anxiety every day, then that seed will grow bigger and bigger. And we'll find ourselves more and more anxious, more and more afraid, more and more feeling unsafe. So it's up to us. What we do with our mind consciousness determines which seeds get watered in our store consciousness. And that determines the state of our mind. So that's the role of mind consciousness, is to carefully look and see which seeds are we watering, which seeds do we want to be watering, which seeds might need more watering. So I hope that's helpful. Annie? And there's a question from Jim. I feel like I am more red on the inside than I am white on the outside. I feel a lot of anger about the horrendous climate experiences heading for the younger generation. How can I use my practice to make a difference? Good question, Jim. So, I think what the earth needs is for us to connect with the earth. With mindfulness, we are more open to connecting with what's going on the earth. And the more we feel our connectedness, like all the fact that we are the earth, right? That is such an important condition allowing us to be. Then if we really see that, then we have to make decisions about how we live that protect the earth, how we consume every day, or how we don't consume, because all of that has an impact. So I think living as lightly as we can on the earth, having as low a carbon impact as we can, and teaching other people to do the same. I think that anger can be constructive if we use it to help wake ourselves up and wake other people up about how important it is to care for the earth. But the anger can be destructive if we just dwell on all that is wrong, and it eats us up from inside if we don't put it in a direction that's constructive, that's useful. So let the anger keep you aware of what's going on, but then let compassion also arise. All of us humans, this climate disaster, catastrophe, has arisen from many causes and conditions. And we want to blame and we want to expel people from our hearts for their greed, for their ignorance, for their hatred. But that's not going to help the situation. That's another kind of pollution. That's a mental pollution. We might not be, driving a truck with black smoke coming out of it, but if we have that kind of hatred for those who are polluting the environment, that's another kind of pollution that we're adding, and that's also harmful to future generations. So having compassion for our own anger, because when we are angry, we're suffering. So turning compassion and kindness towards our suffering of anger, and seeing that also behind that anger is a deep love of this planet, of future generations, and that's something to celebrate. And so letting compassion drive you to do whatever you can every day in a positive way to help heal the planet. Thank you for the question, Jim. And Julius writes, I am in this body, or is this body, or this body is part of me? So the Buddha gave a teaching on the 5 skandhas, the 5 aggregates. And he said there are 5 like heaps that make up any human. And those aggregates are form, which is body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, which I spoke about, what the seed becomes when it arises in mind consciousness, and consciousness. So form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. So body and mind are also one. They're not actually separate, but the Buddha made these distinctions to help us get into more subtlety about our experience. So actually there is no me. There is no you that's separate from other things. There are five rivers that flow into each other. And this river is constantly changing. And there's no one part of the river that you can say is me and, independent and having a separate self. There's just a river that's flowing by, made up of these waters, of these 5 aggregates. So the body, the mind, they are all elements that form this experience of being who we are. But there's no me there's no self that's separate from other things that has these experiences. So we often use the term we have a body as if there's something outside of the body that can possess the body, but it's actually the body has the mind. If you say the mind has the body, you have to say the body also has the mind. And they have each other, and they're not separate. And they arise together, and they are not, they are coming to be because of so many causes and conditions. So I hope that's helpful for you, Julius. So this is from PH. A question, what are the sankharas? How they enter the 12 steps of dependent origination at different entry points? Is the step 4 consciousness named rupa, or is it rather defiled consciousness, i.e. defiled by the wrong sankharas? When there is ignorance, like I don't understand the engine of my car, I can mess up with it even more. By knowing how things have come to be, then I will automatically choose the right responses? That's a question. If there is no time, then how can the 12 steps make sense? Are they independent? I guess you mean independent? So this is a teaching that honestly I haven't studied that much, and it's a pretty complex teaching. So I think there are better teachers who could answer your questions about this. But I think what the little that I understand about this teaching is that there are patterns of how things arise. And when we do see, this was part of your question, if we know how things have come to be, then do we automatically choose the right response? Well, we have a better chance of choosing a right response if we know how things have come to be. So, like I said earlier about the seeds in our store consciousness, that when we water them, we're giving them food. In the 12 links, you see that things come to be because we fed them. And the Buddha says nothing can survive without food. So if we have a depression, if we have ignorance, if we have anxiety, we have to see what food have we been consuming that has allowed this to arise. And it might be food that our ancestors consumed. It might not even be food that we ourselves consume. But maybe we're continuing to nourish it unconsciously. So yes, when we know how something has come to be, we have a much better chance of deciding if we want it to come to be, to continue to come to be or not. Because we're the ones consuming, right? So if we see that, oh, my depression has come to be because I read the paper every day and the paper's really depressing, then we have a choice. We can say, well, maybe I'll just read the Sunday paper. Maybe I don't need to read the paper every day. I can get news and talk with my friends and learn about things that way, or sign petitions online and learn about causes that way. So definitely, as we know what has led to the arising of any one thing, we have more choice, and we can break in at different points when we see, oh, this led to this, this led to this, this led to this. We can intervene. Thank you for that question. And this will probably be the last question. Naomi, she says, I'm in the midst of big challenges, facing an autoimmune illness and a divorce. I know that's the way it is. And the difficulty here is to have a sense of what will be the next step, as I'm just exhausted. Thank you, Naomi. I'm sending you kindness and support as you go through this difficulty. So you know that this is the way it is, and the difficulty is to have a sense of what will be the next step as you're just exhausted. So it can add to our exhaustion to try to know what the next step is. And it can increase our sense of rest to accept that we don't know what the next step is. To not keep trying to figure it out, but to simply be okay with not knowing and dwell where we are. To have peace right where we are, in the not knowing. It's the trying to figure out what comes next that can be very exhausting. That was the quote from Nisargadatta. Be quiet, free from the obsession with what next. It's hard when things are difficult because we worry that they're always going to be difficult. We worry that I'm sick now, will I stay sick like this? Or this divorce is very painful now, will it always be painful like this? We project our feelings, our difficulty in the present into the future. So we need to realize if that's what we're doing, and realize this is what's now, but we don't know. Things are always changing. Impermanence is life. We just need to look back on our past and see we went through difficulties in the past and they shifted and they transformed, and then life got easier. And then, other difficulties arose and they also moved on. So if that's part of what's exhausting you, is to want to know what's coming and is it going to be difficult like it is now, we can notice that and see that and release that kind of holding, that reaching into the future. So being as kind, as loving to yourself as you can now, to really take good care of yourself physically, to love yourself and give yourself so much sweetness and kindness as you go through the divorce. To try to surround yourself with people who can support you and be kind and understanding of you. To read good Dharma books that nourish your heart and mind. So to really take care of yourself and maybe release as much as you can that's not necessary to save your energy. So to let go of extraneous projects or even relationships that are draining you, and just you have to say no, and you have to keep space, keep time for your own healing, for your own grieving, for your own deepening. Go on retreat if you can. Go to places that will nourish your insight, your practice. So you really have to break out time and space for your own healing and rest, and just time to take care of you, and trust that you can heal yourself, trust that you can take good care of yourself, that you have the capacity to make wise decisions. It's brought you on the path of the Dharma. So the Dharma is very healing, and you have the Buddha nature inside of you that can choose wisely which seeds you want to water in yourself to promote healing and of your body and of your heart and mind in the divorce. And I wish you well, and I hold you with kindness and compassion. So thank you, everyone. It is time to end. It's been lovely to be with all of you, and I wish you happy continuation in your practice. Thank you for joining today.